Welcome to Reclaim Your Life. I'm now Duane, your host and the producer. I'm the author of Alpha Chick, a life recovery coach, but I think of myself more as a spiritual mentor, helping women to live better lives. When we release the past, we can fully embrace the present. All of my guests this season will share their own journeys of self-discovery, how they pushed through pain with perseverance, and now live as self-loving, empowered women with a purpose. Today, I am so honored to introduce you to Dr. Sherri Kaye Hoff. Dr. Hoff is a life coach, executive coach, and small business coach. She's a best-selling, inspirational, and transformational author of 2 books, Be the Inspiration and Keys to Living Joyfully, both available on Amazon. Sherri knows what it takes to go from tragedy to triumph. She's an international popular radio show guest and is host of her own podcast on iTunes. Sherri's coaching approach is transformational, inspirational, intuitive, spiritual, energy-boosting, and action-oriented. She holds a PhD, a master's degree in organizational management, and is certified in life, spiritual, executive, business, and group coaching. She has taught ethics and business classes at the collegiate level, and she lives in beautiful Parker, Colorado, with her husband and 3 children and 3 stepchildren. Her mottos: be the inspiration, be bold, and boldly pursue a life of meaning and passion. And Sherri, I tell you, I love a woman that lives by her mottos, and that's you, girl. You're doing all of that. You're bold, you're inspirational, and you live with passion and purpose. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. I'm excited to be here, and what a great introduction. I love your energy, and I love your event and everything that you stand for. So I think we're going to have a great time talking here today.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, you're so busy. You're running around doing keynotes. You've got books. You've got radio shows. And for you to fit us in, I'm so appreciative of the time that you're giving us. I pulled a quote out of one of your books and wanted to read this because it touched me. I think it's something as women we do, and you're honest enough to put it on paper, and I think it's a great way to open up the conversation. I learned that often I was my own worst enemy. I blocked joy from my life at the same time when I felt that I was aggressively and actively pursuing a way to feel and experience true joy, passion, energy, and peace every moment of the day. And I think that is something that we are all guilty of, and yet we don't recognize it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's an amazing quote. I'm always interested when someone pulls something from one of my books, because what I found is that I'm always surprised at what jumps out to each person. And when I write from a very spiritual and, organic perspective with the intention that the book becomes what the person needs. And so when you read that, I kind of went back to that place of, really feeling that moment when I was writing it, and I got like a little teary-eyed for a second and some goosebumps, because part of it is realizing, wow, we all still do that. We block our own joy. But I've come a long way in my life and, really been able to understand that if I want happiness, joy, success, peace, passion, energy, it's my choice. I choose that, and it's a daily choice. It's an every moment choice. It's really a lifestyle, a way of being, and it's so powerful when you make that shift to seeing your life that way.
And it's obvious that that is what you do today, that you live a joyful life. But you've had a journey, like all of us, and, you talk about going from tragedy to triumph. Can we talk about that?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have that tragic experience. I really believe it, because I was really raised with a family perspective of, and I really credit my mom for this, because it was almost like she made a shift even from her own upbringing, but she raised me to really believe that I could do and be whatever I wanted to do and be. And every family has its dysfunctional things, but that was really a wonderful gift that she gave to me. And I really went through life with the, approach to everything I did, even from a small child, to I can do this. In fact, my mom just sent me a poem that I wrote in 5th grade, and I can't believe she hung on to it, but I read it, and I thought, wow, it's pretty insightful for a 5th grader, and I still write poetry to this day. So, I grew up really never feeling like a victim, never having anything terrible happen, and then I came home from school when I was 17 years old, and I found my 15-year-old brother after he had taken his own life. And, yeah, and, it shattered my world, of course, because he wasn't with me anymore. And we were close. We were, 18 months apart. We grew up in a rural community, and so most of the time until I was at least 10 years old, all we had was each other. And so we were really connected, and so I felt like I missed him, but I also felt betrayed by all of the beliefs that I had about life and family, and I thought, how could I be so wrong about how my life was? It was really devastating, and it shattered our community, too. It was completely unexpected. And so I went from feeling like I could handle anything to, how could this happen to me? And I really floundered for about 7 years. But the one really positive thing that I did through all of this is I kept putting one foot in front of the other, and I kept trying things. And I really was blessed by having some really incredible people in my life the entire time. And sometimes it would be, a random college professor or, someone that I met at work, but people who really helped me move forward. And a lot of those people probably don't even know it to this day, but they were people who sustained me during that time. And then I had a circle of life experience, but prior to that, I really felt that it would be a miracle if I could get to feeling just okay. I never even had in my arsenal this thought that, I could somehow be successful and blissfully happy and have a fulfilling life. I thought, well, if I could just stop feeling like such a mess, I'd be happy. Yeah. And, excuse me. And then I had a paradigm shift when I had the circle of life experience when I had my first daughter. But when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was a very active person, and and I was so excited about having my first child, and I looked at it as a miracle, and nobody wanted to be a mom more than I did. And I took care of myself. I took all the vitamins and felt like I was doing everything right. And then I was put on bed rest for 11 weeks. And it was torturous. I could get up for, a minute or so every hour. And I went back into that mode of really kind of starting to feel sorry for myself again. And my mom gave me the book, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. So this was back in the 90s, the mid-90s. And I read that, and it was the first time that I really made the connection between our thought life and our freedom, our thought life and our reality. And I realized that, I started realizing that how I thought impacted the actual physical manifestation of my life. And that started my journey of true growth and true knowledge. And I started moving forward. But I still had that feeling like, what does it take to be happy? And I did have times when I still was really sad, especially when I was alone, when my kids were sleeping and, if my husband wasn't home, and I would cry and I'd feel just desolate, like, and missing my brother and still feeling like I was somehow broken and there was something maybe even wrong with me because I felt guilty that, I had this great husband and kids, and yet I still felt like I couldn't quite pull it together. But I kept moving forward, getting my education, being busy with family life, working my way up the corporate ladder. And I started to put a lot of energy into my career, and I think it was my career will make me happy. And I had this moment, again, another paradigm shift, where I was sitting in an airport. Actually, I was walking through, and I was pulling my little case of my laptop with my corporate credit card, and I was flying a lot for work, and I had this moment of, I've arrived, this is what I've been working for. And then it was this crushing feeling of, oh no, this is it. This is what I've been striving for, and I felt like I still didn't have that, true inner happiness. And so I was still on this quest, and I am a really avid reader. My whole life I've read probably a book a day, sometimes even more. I'm always had something I'm reading. So, you start assimilating and internalizing and having what you've read really become part of who you are. And I've always had a really in-depth spiritual life as well. And I can remember falling asleep just asking, what's the secret? What am I missing? And I woke up in the morning, and it was like this incredible awareness. Like the answer was that I could be happy if I just chose it, that I could choose happiness just like I walk into my closet and choose the clothes that I'm going to wear for that day. And that's when I started looking at happiness as a lifestyle, a way of being, choosing it. People choose their lifestyle. You can choose to have a happiness lifestyle. And I looked at it as something that was possible in the moment, no matter what was going on around me. If I got pulled over for, speeding, I didn't have to have my happiness crushed by, having a ticket or, whatever the normal things that, not that I have tons of speeding tickets, maybe 2 in my whole life, but everyone can relate to that feeling like, oh, darn, but even stuff like that, even stuff like that didn't really take me off my game. I mean, I'd have like my minute where I'd be like, well, that really isn't very nice, but then I would bring myself right back on course, and those discoveries are what led me to writing the book, Keys to Living Joyfully. And what's funny about that is when I was writing that book, I kept trying to write a leadership book. And I kept getting this nudging, this guidance that this is supposed to be a spiritual book. And it became what it is. I just let it flow out of me. It was not hard to write it. It just seemed just very natural, and I love that book. I wrote it in 2008, so almost 6 years ago, and I still just love it, and it's got a powerful message for people. And then when I wrote Be the Inspiration, which actually is my 4th book, but probably Keys to Living Joyfully and Be the Inspiration are my 2 best-known books, but that book is a leadership book, and it's a spiritual book too. But it takes a person from finding the inspiration themselves to inspiring other people, which is what we're doing here today, right? We're spreading that inspiration, that hope, that message that life can be just really fabulous, no matter where you are right now, no matter what you're doing.
And we're spreading that message, Sherri, that happiness is a choice for women. And every single one of our guests have had some kind of loss, traumatic experience, abuse as a child. But you know what? They're all doing amazing things today like you are. and speaking and writing and doing shows and being on TV and everything else. But they had to make the choice to put, what you said, one foot in front of the other, and they had to make that choice that they were going to be happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
I really, that choice really comes from understanding that in our lives we're deliberate creators, that we are always empowered, and even in the most horrendous circumstances, there is still choice. If you read Viktor Frankl's story, he felt more free than his prison guards who were guarding him when he was in a concentration camp, and people would say, that I can't even compare what I've gone through to the experience that he had, and he felt free because his mind was free. And when we see stories like that, it really impacts us on a daily level that, we don't have to look at anything and say, why is this happening to me? Instead, it's really, what is my choice right now?
And
what am I choosing?
Viktor Frankl's a wonderful example, and most recently, just everything about Nelson Mandela. He could have ended up bitter, angry, and all of that would have kept him as a prisoner, and he never would have risen to where he went if he had not developed to, the gift of choice of, I choose to be happy, I choose to forgive, I choose to move forward. Women don't realize that they are infinitely more powerful than they think they are. And how do we get them to take the blinders off? I know that's what happened in my own life with addiction for 25 years, was because I lost sight of the fact that I could choose. My lenses became so clouded over from the debris of my life, I lost the concept of being able to choose. How do we get women to wake up and realize that's always there? And it's through shows like this and books like yours and interviews that we do to enlighten women to that fact. That can never be taken away.
Yeah, and most of the women that I meet, even if there's some sense of, feeling like they've been dealt a wrong hand in life, I feel like most women are strong, and they actually feel that they're strong. But it's almost like too strong. That it's the strength that breeds bitterness. That this feeling like I'm strong, nothing's going to break me. And, I felt like that in my own life. I can remember beating on the walls of my shower after my brother died, saying, just yelling, this will not break me. And, there's some power in that kind of strength. But what happens oftentimes that I see, and these are women who give a lot, they're doers, and they give and they give and they give, is that what happens is they really end up overtaken with anger and resentment. Yeah. Because, resenting the strength that they've needed to have, resenting everything that they've had to do, and maybe in the moment they felt good about doing what they were doing, but it's really the resentment and anger that I see that drives the dysfunctional behaviors that we turn to, food or alcohol or anything that is on the addiction. It's that feeling almost like I've done all this, the world owes me something, or I've got to do something to make me feel better. And nobody feels like that on a intellectual level, but it's what happens at the core when people are just giving too much. And so, and what I want to say when you said, what do we need to say to have women truly embrace that life can be, happy and joyous and full of flow and ease and be beautiful, and it's to point out this fact that when we are beating ourselves up, like doing too much, trying too hard, calling ourselves failures, really that kind of beating ourselves up is a form of self-pity. Because what you're doing is you're taking away your power of being a deliberate creator. And none of these strong women that I talk to want to align themselves with the pity party. And in fact, they sometimes get mad at me and say, well, I do not have self-pity. I'm the strongest person in the world. I do this, and this. But anytime you go into beating yourself up, you've gone into really self-pity, and you cannot manifest anything positive or powerful from a place of self-pity. And as soon as people make that connection and realize, wow, when I am saying, I'm not happy because I give every ounce of everything that I have to everybody else, what that really is self-pity, and you can never be truly happy when you're in that place. It's like a click. In fact, I just talked to a client this past week about that, and it clicked for her, and she was like, and she was a little mad at me when I first said that, and then it clicked, and she was like, holy cow, I have really spent a lot of time in this pity party that I never even knew I was having. And she stepped back into her personal power, the power of being a deliberate creator, the power of taking responsibility, not for all these other people, but taking responsibility for the happiness. I always ask people, what do you want? What do you want in your life? And few people even know. If I say, well, what, they say, oh, well, this is happening, and, I lost my job, or, whatever is going on, and I'll say, well, what would you like in your life? They don't know.
I know.
Because they're just really caught up in what isn't working. And so, people can take something from this call. I hope there's a ton that people are taking from the call, but to take this idea of understanding that you are a deliberate creator, taking that understanding that you need to figure out what it is that you do want. And I'm not really talking about houses or cars, and I could be. People, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting and having material things or traveling or whatever it is that you want. But usually when people get down to the core of it, they want to be happy and they want to feel loved.
And they don't know what is going to make them happy.
Right, and the key is like nothing.
Away.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and the key is nothing will make a person happy. That happiness is a way of being. It's just like love. Like when people say, well, I wasn't loved enough as a child, many people feel that way. But the thing is that love is an action. It's a verb. And so if you want love, love more. And I'm not saying, love an abusive spouse, but I'm saying if you want to feel more love, go get some money to Salvation Army. Go help some kids. Go, or even just imagine yourself sending love vibrations all the way around the planet. And when you do that, you're acting in the vibration of love, which then brings you those loving feelings.
And
go ahead.
I often tell women, Sherri, that you can't get what you can't give, and and you have to have love within you to give in order to receive it. And love and happiness starts within us. Exactly what you're saying. It's an inside job. It starts with us.
It does. It's really profound. And so when you say that love comes from within us, it starts really with self-love. Love, being able to love yourself, not in an arrogant or narcissistic way, but in just truly saying, I love my spirit. I love way that, I approach this, or I appreciate and love my body because I'm still here on this planet. If we, for people who've gone through addiction, a lot of times there's almost like a feeling of hatred towards your body, like it somehow betrayed you, and bringing yourself back to the place of, well, if you're still alive here on this planet, your body is supporting you. And, turn some love that way, And it really is true that the more that you love yourself, the more love that you have for other people. And people respond to love. People don't respond to manipulation or hidden agendas. And even if you're very discreet about a hidden agenda or trying to manipulate someone, they don't respond to that. What they respond to is the sense of the love that's coming from you, from your core, from your inner self, from your highest self.
And I love what you said about loving your spirit. That's authentic love. Looking in the mirror and thinking that you're pretty and, oh, I've got a gorgeous figure, or I've got these big boobs or whatever. That's not love. That's not what it's about. It's loving that spirit. It's loving that divine I am, your core, that divine aspect, which is, it's a hard thing for women to get to. But once you have the ability to really establish that deep, deep, deep self-love and self-worth, I think women become unstoppable. They can really create and do whatever they want. And that's what I wish for all of them.
And really everyone, men included. This idea of self-love, my son I was at a VIP event speaking, and my son, we were out of town, so my kids were with, and my son was 12. And he caught the tail end of it, and it was a presentation where I was asking people to do some self-reflection and to build, grow their intuition, their intuitive powers. And so, I had them come up with a question of, what do they really want the answer to? And so we were doing this exercise, and then, when I finished and I came off and went to the side, and my son came up to me and he said, Mom, I asked myself a question too. And I go, you did? What question did you ask, buddy? And he goes, I asked, how come I'm so awesome? And, a big smile just lit my face, because I thought, that's how simple it is. Before our self-worth is corrupted by anything, and it wasn't arrogant. It was, his innate belief that whatever he faced in his life, he could handle. And, gosh, it was just an incredible experience. How come I'm so awesome?
Cute, wonderful. Oh.
That's what we need to be asking ourselves, instead of, what do I need to fix? Tell me why I'm so awesome.
Well, I would love for you to share a little bit about, you're giving a beautiful gift to our listeners, a free gift that's going to help them on their journey of transformation. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, what I'm giving is MP3 on one of the best 1-hour presentations I've ever given in my entire life. It's called The 4 Keys to Living Inspired. And it takes you through understanding some of these concepts that we've talked about today in terms of creating that everyday happiness. And also in this MP3, I've also included a bonus MP3. It's not even listed on if people go to the page where they can get it, it's not even listed there. But when they sign up, they'll also get my 90 affirmations on creating positive beliefs and, conquering limiting beliefs. And so that affirmation, MP3, it's set to music, and it's my voice, and it's 90 affirmations said 3 times, and what I hear from people, I have someone listen to it every single day for 3 years, and I, she obviously loves it, but I've had people say that they can actually feel, like their forehead vibrating as they're listening, and so it's a very powerful, energetic alignment that will help you move to just you're really feeling better and more blissful about yourself and taking you to that place of happiness. So there's really 2 things, and in that Living Inspired, I go really in depth with the concept of oneness, which I think that the more we align with this idea of oneness, like when you said people don't realize how powerful they are, well, when you realize that you are one with all that was, all that is, and everything that ever will be, you are connected to the most powerful force there is. And so we truly are more powerful than we can ever even completely conceive of. And so I go pretty in-depth in the idea of oneness on this MP3, which is that way of getting more connected to spirit, which then gives you that happiness and that love. Because when we're able to connect with that source, source is pure love. And the more time we spend in that connection, the better everything happens in our lives. Even 5 minutes is good. But that's one of the concepts that I talk about on that MP3. So it's really high value. You will enjoy it. You will get something out of it. And I suggest when people get it that they listen a few times, because there's this thing called cognitive dissonance, which means that basically that you can only learn what you already know. So if something is an entirely new concept, you aren't able to assimilate it. It's like you have to hear it again in different ways, and then it's why you can read a book and then a year later go back and read it and it seems like a different book. It's because we're able to absorb things on different levels at different times in our lives. As we grow more, we absorb more. So people will really have a great experience with that free gift. So I'm really happy to offer it.
Thank you. And please give our listeners your website address, so if anybody wants to reach out to you and connect with you personally, they're able to do so.
Sure. It's www.lifeisjoyful.org. So it's just the way the words are spelled, lifeisjoyful.org. And there's a contact tab, so if people want to contact me and ask me questions or, connect on a deeper level, you can certainly do that. And there's all kinds of resources on my website as well, and a connection to my blog. So that's where to get started to really deepen the connection with me.
Sherri, this has been wonderful, wonderful. And I want to thank you again for fitting this in your very demanding schedule and sharing just such beautiful information that will help our listeners in your free gift. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. I've had a great time, and I love the work that you do. People are really blessed by you putting this series together. So